I'll give you a clue. It was Grimsby.
They are pressing quite well. What's happened there? You've got to be joking.
Oh, sorry, I've done it the wrong way around. I've drawn an arrow and I haven't seen it. Sorry.
He must have a horseshoe up his ass.
If we're playing on professional and that's happening for Barcelona...
2 years ago. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
I'm sorry, that's just put me off the game. I'm not having that.
Anyway, segue, moving on.
What has that got to do with football? Why is that at a football ground? Hello and welcome to another ramble from the Honest Football Podcast, where we bring honesty back to the beautiful game. I'm a rather hoarse Charlie Betts, and joining me this week and every week are Craig Savage and Daniel Cody.
Thank you for joining us on Spotify, and we're also available on other platforms and also on YouTube. Like, share and subscribe this video and our content on the Honest Football Podcast.
And where else can they follow us, Craig?
They can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. So, how's your week been, guys? Well, I say how's your week? Me and Cody, we spent Saturday afternoon...
Oh no, not this early. I thought you were going to talk about other stuff.
No, because there's nothing else to talk about.
I think, can we save the football bit? Because there is... Well, Dan's going to share something. And I was quite surprised, Craig, that you weren't as on board with this story as maybe what I was, and definitely is what Dan is about it. And Dan, what are you going to talk to us about?
I believe, if I'm thinking about what you're thinking about, I'm going to talk to you about jam and clotted cream scones.
Yes.
No, I'm not on board with this story.
Oh,
no.
for goodness sake, that's awful for you. Who doesn't like jam and clotted cream
I
scones?
like scones.
Dan,
Is it a scone or a scone?
It's a scone because we're what's the word?
British?
Common.
Oh.
Right, Dan, talk
Well,
about
if you've seen the people in London this week, I think we're all coming in there.
Well, the less said the better. And we're also, this week, before we do that, going to be the only podcast relating to sport, I think, not to mention Colleen Rooley or Rebecca Vardy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we just did.
We're not going to get into detail on it. But yeah, so scones.
So obviously I work in a GP surgery, and obviously the first thing we want to promote is health and clotted cream, isn't it?
Yes.
So what a wonderful way to do it. So our medical student, we have medical students that stay with us for 2 months. They do a bit of learning, and then at the end, this medical student decided to bring us some lovely baked goods. So there was a big banana bread loaf for some, and for me it was
banana bread.
Oh, absolutely.
I like not banana bread actually.
That's little bits of fruit sultanas and that.
I've actually made a banana loaf before, and that was only because the bananas were going out of date.
Can I just say, 25 minutes ago, you just said my other half pancakes. I don't know how they're made. I just eat them.
The more elaborate ones. I know there's a bit of sugar, flour, and bananas. But anyway, go on.
Banana bread has bananas. That's the fact for the day. But yeah, they brought in these wonderful homemade scones.
Scones.
Our mum used to work for us years ago, so she obviously was looking after us as well.
Yeah.
Jam and clotted cream, the only combination that should be going in a scone originally.
Which way do you go?
Just
Do you go
fantastic.
jam then cream, or cream then jam on the scone?
Well, I fixed the problem. You cut it in half. You
Do you
put
make
one
it
on
in a
each side.
sandwich?
I knew he was going
People like you are disgusting.
Do you know what it does?
And
it
you
solves
said you're
the problem.
common.
It solves the problem. You cut it not quite completely, just leave a little bit, so it's like a hinge, I guess.
So you
Jam
make
on
it so
like a
it's
burger.
like an Oreo now.
See, my issue is
Like a burger,
if you
correct.
go cream first and then jam, the jam just sort of sits in a blob on top.
Yeah.
Whereas if you jam first, then put the cream, you can spread the cream
jam can soak-
without the jam.
And
mix.
this is going to soak into the scone.
Exactly.
And then, why am I getting onto food? I'm very into my food.
You're into it now.
But the cream, obviously, then it just goes over.
This is going to make me sound really bad.
Is the scone hot?
No.
Oh, then we're living out there.
Is it bad if I... What are you on about? Is it bad if I say that I didn't actually prepare my own scone?
No, someone made it for you.
Someone went and got it for me because I was doing them a favour.
You elitist bastard.
No,
And you said you were common.
Just really good question, because I don't know if it's like most other workplaces. I do find sometimes the expectation to bring cakes and stuff on certain days quite sort of strange. I get like in that situation where if you were working somewhere as a student or whatever,
I'm a bit concerned.
As a thank you to the staff who maybe helped you, you buy them. Like cakes or make cake.
Absolutely.
But I find sometimes on your own birthday, there's an
we have to do
expectation.
that.
You bring in cakes
So
and biscuits.
all of our staff
On
do
your
that.
birthday?
On my birthday.
Yeah,
so
you
I don't know if
bring
it's
in
like
cake.
at your workplace, but
Well, I work
so
at the
you
same
don't
time,
bring
so
in
it's
that.
cake ready to set up.
Either your birthday or the next day you're in after that, you're responsible for bringing in cakes or goodies for the team.
So if you have like, I don't know how many members of staff you've got, but like at my
25.
old school I had about 40. So then you have to bring in like enough to feed 40 people, which is like 2 big cakes, you know what I mean? Like Clyde the Caterpillar. I'm not sure what you need 2 of them to.
I'm sorry, but that is an absolute disgrace.
No, but that's
it's
the
your
thing.
birthday.
It's so
someone
common,
brings you the
Well,
cake.
I think
I've worked
you're-
in 3 different workplaces
Yeah.
and it's been similar all the time.
Like, yeah, I'm in 2 different schools.
I've got-
exactly.
well,
I
I
think
work
you're
in
rare
re-
in this
I
that your
think-
workplace
well,
doesn't do that.
Because I work in retail.
I guess
so
you have
there's
cakes readily
200
available.
members of staff.
Yeah.
I can't cater for 200 members of staff.
No, but
otherwise
your
we'll just
team
nick the
or your
food.
shift or something like that. The point I'm making is, it's weird that's the
we have like
expectation.
huddles and we
But I've had it where, like,
we
genuinely,
take food from the shelf.
people celebrate stuff. Like, there was a member of staff at my old school who, when they passed their driving test, brought in like donuts for everyone. And it was like, this is bizarre. Like, why is it anytime anything good happens to you, you have to feed people?
We used to have an occasion, because no one wanted to work on Friday, but the three of us that did. We had one doctor and one nurse, and we used to have a rolling biscuit roller.
Did you? What was your biscuit of choice?
What?
Well, my biscuit of choice is whatever was cheapest, and as to that,
Right.
But what was it?
normally the go-to haven when you've got nurses around is a chocolate digestive.
Oh, that's a classic.
Yeah, so
that or a chocolate hobnob, I've got to say.
they were a bit out of my price range.
Yeah,
At the
they
time,
can
I was
be.
an apprentice on like £2 something an hour.
You
So.
can't go wrong with a custard cream.
Anyway, that's
Onto
nearly,
football.
that's nearly 5.5 minutes of cakes and
cake
creams.
and scones.
and stuff.
And Craig got surprisingly into that.
But yeah, go on. So let's get the big elephant out in the room out of the
Again,
way.
Charlie. Right.
It was just before this time last year, wasn't it? Because it was about December.
It was November, wasn't it? November?
No,
November,
it
first
was
round.
the first weekend of December last year. First
Yeah.
weekend
Was
of
it the first
December.
round?
Yeah. I think it was the first or second of December.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
But it's happened twice.
Yeah. well, my team didn't have a game on the Saturday. Got called off for league representation. So obviously that gave me and Charlie a free Saturday.
Yeah.
So in my head, I spoke to the lads and I said, why don't we go to a game?
Can I just-
Cody's trying to complete the 92.
Interject really quickly. Last year, I said I would go, and I bought a ticket,
Yes.
and then I didn't go. This year, I was a lot more what's the word? Open in saying it's unlikely I'm going. Well, maybe not unlikely.
But-
There's a chance I won't go, which is a
but-
bit more. I didn't commit as much.
What did you forget to say in that first bit there?
Well,
What mistake did you say?
so I probably knew a few days earlier that there was not going to be a game. And I probably should have just kept a facade up that there was a game, thus keeping my Saturday afternoon free.
Yes.
And then could have gone to the football, but alas,
You
I
let
didn't.
it slip.
And to rub salt into the wound, I ended up. I went out for lunch, and I ended up in Letchworth Garden City in Dorothy Perkins. So it was-
Fantastic. Back to the football again. So there was two choices. We were going to go either Boreham Wood versus Solihull Moors because Charlie doesn't like Tim Fowler for some random reason.
But
they're up to 7th now. By
It
the way.
wouldn't help my 92, unfortunately.
It wouldn't have 92, or the next best option locally to us was Milton Keynes Dons versus Burton Albion.
And it was a good option because they had their family fun day, which meant
Yes.
tickets for a tenner, which
Yes.
was cheaper than Boreham Wood 2 leagues below.
Yes.
So where did you choose to sit then, lads?
Well, obviously we're Luton Town fans, and sitting in the Milton Keynes Don end.
Can I just make a point at this stage? Because some people will be asking, why weren't you at the Luton Town game? I was working till half 12, Craig
I
till
was
12.
working
We
till
could
12.
not have got to Derby.
And
logistically.
tickets on the day were £32.
That's not an issue for me. But
No, I'm just saying £32 on
it's
the
the man
day.
who gets
is a-
scones made for, remember?
Oh,
so it's not-
sorry.
I'm joking.
With his tea ready with his pinky up. Anyway, so tickets obviously were $10, as Cody said. We made our way up to the Stadium K. We went to the ticket office.
So you could pay on the door because obviously a lot
It was
of
paying
grounds
the
say
day.
it's
It was
not
paying the
door.
day for both set of fans. Still £10. We went to the away. We sat in the away in basically because
That's what I was trying to get to. So
Yes.
you sat with the Burton Albion.
we sat with the Burton Albion fans.
Good
One,
decision.
it was a great decision. Two, we know they will actually be up for the game.
Mm-hmm.
And three, they were a better team.
Right. Well, I mean, to be
Overall.
honest, I don't know where they lie in the table.
Well, they were
Before the game,
14th and
14th. So
Yeah,
it's
they
a
were
mid-table,
mid-table, yeah.
mediocrity sort of game. So in terms of the ground, and I mean, I've been there years and years ago to watch England under 21s. I think even at the time they hadn't even put the seats in the top tier.
Yeah.
So as a ground, without fans and people, it's quite a bit, a spectacle
It's
of
a
ground.
big
isn't it?
ground.
It's very
in the wrong
interesting
area.
actually, because if we take aside what football team are in it, the atmosphere and all that sort of stuff, and just get to the basics of it. So I've stayed in the ground in the hotel
Yeah.
for work purposes or whatever, and that obviously runs around almost the entirety of the home end, and it's fantastically modern, built up, brilliant modern facilities, lovely walkways and concourse. However, when we went into the Burton end, there was a little bit of surprise, wasn't there, Craig?
Yes.
Because we were met with white sheets.
White sheets, we like tarpaulin.
What do you mean?
So between the concourse and the ground,
Well, the
there was
seats,
just
yeah.
big old-fashioned like Gibson Dandies plastic white sheets.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So
They
where
looked terrific.
it looked terrific.
It was a bare walkway. There was nothing on the walkway other
no
than an
concession
entrance
stand,
to a
but-
No,
toilet.
there was a concession stand, but it's not that it stands out as a concession stand. It's
Right.
Like, it was both like the bar area and the food stand.
They were hidden like round the
hidden
corner.
round.
Right.
Yeah.
And the bar area, no hot food in that bar area.
No.
It was just a square with a smoking bit outside.
Right.
Again, surrounded in white sheets outside. It was actually a building site outside it. And then we walked down to the other end, and unfortunately we're getting back to food again.
Yeah, we're going
And got what I believe would be the most contrasting yet worst food experience we've both probably had at a football ground.
So you've queued up and you've got to the front.
We got queued up.
And you've ordered what?
So we've both spent £3.80.
Yes, spent £3.80. I ordered a hot dog from like Mum's Hot Dog, whatever that brand is called. And
I don't think
Mum's
it was.
No, it wasn't Mum's.
You got Mum's hot dog?
It was a brand of hot dog.
Right, okay.
It was called Mum's.
And I went the opposite way and had a sausage roll.
Ginster's sausage roll.
Oh, okay.
So the contrast here, and it's quite baffling, I'm sure Craig will back me up on this. Craig was basically served a mustard hot dog. So all other food, you go and get your condiments from the back, you've got your brown sauce, your ketchup and all that. Craig's was lathered in mustard for some reason.
The bun was burnt.
So this is the thing. Craig's bun was burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, it nearly broke my teeth.
And then bafflingly, I couldn't eat my sausage roll because it was uncooked.
No, raw.
As in the pastry was soft, soggy, white as a ghost. And the sausage in the middle was...
This is like some messed up British Bake Off sort of
Essentially.
episode.
Oh no, this is ridiculous.
So the worst £7.60.
Did you return it or not?
No,
Oh,
we got back to the seat by the time.
So you lost your teeth because of the hard button.
Yes.
And I lost £3.80 to a hot dog, to a sausage roll that's under the seat.
Potentially would have given you food
Basically,
poisoning.
we literally went under the seat.
So right, okay, let's speed this up a little bit. So you, in terms of the situation on the ground, you're behind the goal line.
We're on a corner
in terms, not
flag.
situation, position. Sorry, in the
We're
ground.
behind a corner
Left
flag.
corner flag.
Left corner flag.
Yeah.
So in terms of away fans, roughly how many of which you?
500,
600.
Okay, not bad from Burn. And then home fans.
Well,
Wow.
apparently 9,000, but I think they've counted every member of staff and everyone who was possibly staying in a
How
hotel.
many would you say were there then?
6 or 7 at a push.
Right.
5.
No,
So,
more than that. There were
which
kids
is a
that
shame.
looked
I mean,
like-
how big's the ground? 25, 30,000, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a ground like that, it looks ridiculous, doesn't it?
It's awful.
So,
My real worry for that was they put the tickets on for £10 and £1 for kids.
Yeah.
What more can they do, really?
No, apart from
but what I
letting
would
them
say, and I don't know if the home end was different, of course, but the family fun day, there was, and I can categorically say, absolutely zero there for away fans for the fun day.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing at all. You
No.
would never have known in a million years that was a family fun day in the away end.
Right.
I presume the home end was different, but
I'm
if
sure
it
there's,
wasn't,
I'm
I
sure
can
there's
see
something
why.
going around the other side of
Especially
the
not
stadium.
disrespectful when you talk about a team like Burton Albion, who are, what I mean by that is not going to bring a massive contingent.
And it was probably the oldest average age group of a fan base I've sat in.
Yeah.
Yes.
However, in the home end, obviously Milton Keynes is a relatively new modern place. Loads of kids were there, but there was nothing there for, and they looked bored shit.
To put it into context,
There was
for
kid-
anyone
I remember
who
it.
hasn't been
That's the
there.
explicit button on Spotify. Go on.
Well, I think they designed it for that though, didn't they, for families? And by that I say, you know, if you look around the ground, there's an IKEA just down the road. There's
There's a
all the
cinema
manner
next
of
door,
different restaurants.
shopping.
Which we almost looked for you in.
Oh yes, no, but there is tons of restaurants. Isn't there like a next? You know,
Well, we
what
were
it
in
is that-
Nando's afterwards.
Yeah,
so-
there you go. So the principle being that I suppose anyone who's not interested in football can go to the retail park, and
Free
on the
parking.
same site is the football ground. And obviously, if you're on a family fun day, if you still can't get people through the door, I suppose it is worth asking: are they ever going to get off the
Well,
ground?
I think
anyway.
part of the reason they couldn't get, and probably what you actually want us to lead on to now, the reason they couldn't get many fans through the door was the performance.
I was about to say. So now we're getting on to the football. So,
Yes.
I mean, I only saw the highlights. You raved about the second goal, but
The second goal was
as a
fantastic.
team, I assume Burton were good for a 3-0 win. Or
Bolton. Burton fully deserved the 3 points, but I
was it a
hear
good
it's
game?
just-
Forgetting who
Was
you
it a good
disliked
game?
like from a neutral perspective.
The first half was bordering on one of the worst games of football
Yeah,
I've ever
it
seen.
was scrappy.
The second half, Burton were far superior.
When you say like first up, like two direct teams or not?
MK Dons
or
was
just-
very direct.
just
Very
back and
direct. And when
And,
once the centre backs of Burton Albion solved it, it was an easy game for them.
Right.
Burton were relatively direct. They had Northern Ireland International Liam Boyce up front.
Oh yes, yeah.
So,
yeah.
so you missed that as well.
And then
again.
up front for Milton Keynes was Jordan Bowery. He was at former Aston Villa.
And Crew was
Crew.
out recently.
Yeah.
So they were targeting him, but the problem with that one, they didn't have anyone to back him up.
Yeah.
It was sort of the assumption that because he was tall, he was a target man. And I've watched him play at
I don't
Crew as
think
a
he
Luton
was a
fan.
tall.
He hasn't a target man.
No,
He's
no.
electric quick, and he didn't
Yeah.
play a ball in behind once.
Right.
And it really baffled me. We did hear Paul Tisdale after the game talking about injury crisis and being lots of players out, which we have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But they had their skipper Dean Lewington there, who's been there I think since the start.
He was at Wimbledon before.
Yeah, so he was there in 2004 when they were formed.
Before Wimbledon, yeah, when Wimbledon was still Wimbledon.
Genuinely atrocious.
Oh really?
Yeah,
genuinely.
He was.
Set piece delivery, everything.
He's got to be over 35 now, surely. I mean, the club's only what 15 years old.
I think he was a youngster, but you're talking, definitely 33,
so
34.
If he was there when he was 16, 17, he's got to be,
I think didn't he get cheered when he got subbed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's always the side, isn't it?
So is he Ray Lewin's son? Am I right?
Yeah, it's Ray Lewin's son. Yeah.
Okay.
But
so the question we normally ask after your away day travels of area, because obviously not me, because I go shopping, but is. I think I know the answer to this, but having been there, would you go back there to watch a football match?
I would go back there if England under 21s are playing or a big game.
I would go back to the stadium because the stadium's okay. I wouldn't go back to watch an MK Dons game, not until they've got at least another generation of proper fans from being a club for 30 years.
I think it'll be another 10-15 years.
Really?
At least.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's too new. It's too... For Milton Keynes Dons itself, I said, I've only been there for 15 years. The stadium is too big.
Yeah.
Well, we've obviously been to Milton Keynes when they were playing at the National Hockey Stadium.
Yeah. Yes, I remember.
Which that was just a dive.
Yeah. I'm sure.
But this is a corporate facility, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's there for England under 21 for
the thing is,
concerts.
they played Liverpool in the League
That's
Cup.
true.
They played Liverpool in the League Cup a few weeks ago, and they sold the place out.
Although I do remember. Yeah, that's true actually. But I do remember. Is it Pete Winkelman?
Yeah.
He was saying that not long ago that they were hemorrhaging money out of the place. So
that's the reason why
you probably understand why. I mean, I don't know the average cost of putting on a football league match, but by the sound of it, they're not getting that much back in gate receipts to cover the cost.
It's all the extra bits as well. Like they've sold the hotel off to Hilton, so there's a lot of your profits gone from that.
Yeah.
And there wasn't much there in terms of food.
The main site is Asda's, isn't it? I think it's more for Asda than actually.
And by the sounds of it, you're not going to get repeat business on the hot dogs and the sausage rolls. So you
they could have done that better. But Nando's was fantastic.
I don't know if you noticed it. One little bit of detail from that food stand which really puzzled me. They were all wearing suits.
What, the people who work?
Shirt and ties. Even the girls, the boys.
Behind the counter.
Girls and boys all wearing shirt and tie.
I don't remember the girls behind the bar wearing it.
Not behind the bar.
Behind the
they
food
were
counter.
just wearing whatever. But behind the food serving counters, they were all wearing shirts and ties.
Okay, interesting. So, okay,
go back to the actual game. Three goals, good goals. The second goal was fantastic goal, top corner.
Third goal was classic counter-attacking. The first goal...
Scrappy, it looked very good.
Gift.
So were they down
even though he went in?
All three goals?
No,
three
the first goal was in the other end.
Right,
The second and further in our end.
Cool. And the Burton fans, good
Fantastic, I love them.
good songs and all of that?
The only slight issue, there was a drum in both ends.
Yeah.
Oh no, he hates the
He
drum.
hates the drum. He literally looked to our left and went, "There's a drum." I think the Burton fans were they're lovely.
But considering we were there, and I'll be honest, because we were just talking like neutrals, basically. Mm-hmm. No trouble whatsoever, no hassle at all. Really nice place to go. Really nice lot of fans. It's just a shame that there wasn't really a match atmosphere. No. And the sad thing is, I guess it's really unique as a football league ground. Probably the only place I've been where you don't feel the home fans support the home team.
Yeah, I suppose.
You think they're there as tourists or neutral. It's a really weird feeling.
No,
I've only ever seen it at Fulham in the neutral end. That's the only other place I've seen it.
It generally did feel like neutrals were actually in the home end, and obviously us two in the Burton Albion end.
At the time, not I suppose if you were shopping at IKEA or something, so if you can pay on the door, what I mean is it probably was a lot of neutrals. But okay, well that was obviously another day out. So you're how many teams now? Not how many grounds? Sorry, of the 92.
I think I'm on 32 now because Coventry moved out of Rico, which I'd forgotten to count.
Oh, you got to count that surely.
Well, we'll see. And Bury obviously are.
And then hopefully.
Well, you've been to Bury anyway.
Hopefully, now I know that.
Yeah, but there might not be an EFL.
Great form for this, but hopefully you and I go to the Majewski. Am I pronouncing that right?
Well, there's no hopefully on my end of the bar.
No.
There's only one man who might let the team down.
So the Majewski Stadium, and then we'll go from there. But
and we've got to book another one tonight as well.
Okay, yes,
Oh.
yeah. So, okay.
Is it my time?
Is it your time to go?
My
right.
turn.
Okay. Anyway, moving on, Craig. You want to talk about the managerial?
Yeah, it's been a very busy week of managerial
merry-go-round, casualties.
I keep saying departments in this. Departures. The first one was Barnsley. They sacked Daniel Stendel, but
Which we'll come back to in a minute.
Where the statement was ridiculous. Jack Ross sacked from Sunderland, so that if there was a first season of Sunderland Till I Die on Netflix, that would be very interesting to watch. Reading, Jose Gomez. Yeah, there was a long rumour going around the day, like 2 days in advance, that Jose Gomez was getting the sack and Mark Hughes was going to take over.
There's a few more lower down.
But obviously in National League, Craig Hignett, obviously
after last night's defeat on BT,
to Stockport County 2-1. He's been given the boot, and Gary Hill at Ebbsfleet, who are bottom of the National League right now. That one did not surprise me, to be honest, because of the financial background beyond off the pitch. Sorry,
he's performed miracles just to keep him going.
Yeah, and I'm obviously I don't think they'll last season.
No,
I generally don't think they'll last season. And obviously there's one in Italy, but I don't care about them. But
so did you want to analyse them a little bit more?
Yeah, Stendel
not too long, but
the Daniel Stendel one was very interesting because he played some really good football at Barnsley, and this season I think they got the youngest average squad, and obviously they've had a rocky start. They lost 5-1 to Preston at last weekend, and their statement. Obviously, we've had a moan about club statements in the past.
Yeah,
and it didn't say anything like, "Oh, we thank Daniel for your help here."
Quite a hostile statement.
Yeah, it was a very hostile one. Daniel Stendel has left the club. Adam Murray's in charge until further notice.
Yeah,
that was it.
May I have a rant?
I was leading you up for this rant. Yes,
go for it.
Daniel Stendel was in charge of Barnsley as his first job in England at the start of the 2018-19 season, the last full season we had. He managed Barnsley to within 3 points of the League One title and automatic restoration to the Championship after relegation, where a manager had been sacked after 3 months in charge and got a glowing statement despite ultimately failing.
Yeah.
He, in the summer, lost his goalkeeper and 2 of his starting back 4, who were all sold. Not too dissimilar to Luton.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is why I want to link this back to being lucky to be a Luton fan, for the odd Luton fan who's having a moan as well. They didn't sign any reinforcements of note.
No.
He was a bit like probably Jose Mourinho at the top level the year before, saying we could really do with a bit of experience in this position,
right?
And didn't get it.
I think they do the Moneyball.
They did do the Moneyball thing,
right?
Yeah. Hasn't worked this summer.
No. But
10 games into the season, he is sacked with them. Let's be honest, not miles out of sight. They're a couple of points away from safety, but hardly a disaster.
As I said, the Championship is always tight. The Championship, like for example, like if you're in 20th place and you get like 2 good wins, you're up to like 9th.
Well, let's take the example.
That's the Championship, how the Championship works.
Stoke won their first game of the season last weekend. If they win the next 3, they'll be top half.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But the telling thing with football fans is always the situation when they leave the club. So obviously the Barnsley statement you've spoken about is I don't care how you finish with someone, what terms you finish on in any workplace in the world. The least you can do is not wish bad upon them.
No, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Just say good luck in the future. Even if you've had a falling out or something awful, I'm just say I hope you sort out your problems and have a good future. You know, just get on with it. Have a bit of respect, particularly for a man who's benefited your club and made you millions as an owner.
Exactly.
Which for me is sad. They were one of the best footballing teams I watched.
I remember saying that last year.
Yeah, I said that. I said even
the game was on Sky, wasn't it?
They were brilliant at Oakwell, and then after the new year, I said that's probably the best point we've probably got all season.
But I remember you saying that they were the best team you'd seen.
Yeah, they're a fantastic side.
Season, so.
He'll get another job very quickly. Yeah. If I was a team like Reading, I would be, or Sunderland, if they haven't put it, I would be getting on the phone and begging him to go and join.
Well, it's interesting you were just saying really quick, only because I saw it as like a more light-hearted sort of thing of the, obviously the fact the statement was so cold and so short. That apparently there was a group of Barnsley fans.
Well, this was the supporters trust put out a brilliant statement. Yeah, and then a group from that supporters trust invited him out for a leaving do, like a thank you. And he went to a local pub in Barnsley with about 40-50 fans and just had a really good evening. And he came out and did a nice emotional statement.
That's a good man. And the thing is, fans didn't want him sacked anyway. They loved him,
and that says a lot when you're in a relegation zone. But the really good thing for that, obviously, he was a German man coming over for the first time. Didn't really know the language that well when he came over. And the main thing the Barnsley fans took, and it goes with any manager really, is whether you succeed or fail, the fact that he ingrained himself in the culture. Yeah. And it's always a thing. We talk about someone who's been hugely successful aboard as a player, Gareth Bale. Yeah. What's the one criticism always? Doesn't give a shit about the Spanish culture.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah.
And the fans can never get past that hurdle. No. But with Stendel, it was so biased towards how much effort he'd put into the community.
It's the same thing with there it is. There's a community with Stendel. Same thing at Stendel with David Wagner when he was at Huddersfield,
perfect example.
And Daniel Farker are now at Norwich.
Yeah,
they bought into and with Klopp as well. But the German managers, they've all bought into the English fans' philosophy of obviously how their culture is, and they bought into it and they loved it.
I think the players take the piss out of each other. We're very similar cultures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the thing is, to round this one off a little bit, is we've said this quite a few times. You've got to be careful what you wish for, and in that situation, given the context you just laid out, he's not done a bad job at all. And
The examples you gave are brilliant. Wagner, Farker potentially in the future, and Stendel. All the only thing they're guilty of is overachieving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, with a small budget and a small squad.
Should we move on to a few more? So Sunderland, Jack Ross, you said, but
Jack Ross is
not as much of a surprise.
Saw it coming, probably.
Yeah, you saw it coming. I feel a bit sad. I feel a bit sorry for him in a way because
it was always whoever came.
I think
but there's
exactly.
more to it, isn't there?
Yeah, I think with Sunderland being relegated into League One last season, I think that obviously the fans' expectation was to smash League One.
Mm-hmm.
Despite two successive relegations.
Despite two successive relegations. And at the end of the day, they didn't smash League One because Luton and Barnsley both got promoted. And they lost in the player final to Charlton in the last kick of the game. So losing that last kick of the game has also effectively, now they're fucking coughing for him because, sorry, Spotify. Because
that's not free, we're done. We're explicit content.
No, because the season after expectation is you definitely have to smash this league, and they haven't started that well. The thing is that they're only in, I think they're fifth in League One, but they lost to Lincoln City the other day, last week, and obviously that was the final game for them. But I don't know what the fans' expectation is. It's like, I think it's like the same thing with Luton in the National League. We expect them to be in the top.
But I think you're being a bit harsh on the fans here because there were a couple of things in the background of this. Most of the fans actually said, although ultimately your objective, you failed, thank you for dealing with dignity, helping stabilise our club, dealing with all the bloody Netflix crap in the background, and doing a solid job. The other background bit to this, of course, is it's at the point where the the Scottish owner who took over to try and stabilise the club and then sell them again.
Stuart Donald.
It looks like it's about to go through,
right?
And suddenly Jack Ross has been sacked. It does seem a bit of a coincidence, you know. So I think there's probably a reason for that. And as I said before, they should be going to Daniel Stendel's door and absolutely begging him because if they make the wrong appointment here...
Well, there's five, apparently Sunderland saying there's 5 names. Apparently one of them is the Wickham manager, Gareth Ainsworth, which I can't see that working out.
I tell you what, he's a very good manager, but if they're not happy with Jack Ross's football, they ain't going to be
they're not
happy with
Gareth
Ainsworth's football.
that's what I was thinking. They're not going to be happy with
brilliant
the
manager, but direct.
Kevin Phillips, former Sunderland striker, he's linked with it.
Sol Campbell?
No. That's too big for him.
But he was linked on it.
Yeah, why?
Yeah,
why is it too big for him?
I don't know, Sol Campbell.
I disagree entirely.
I think you can't go from Macclesfield to then again Paul Instead.
It's one league. You've got to take away the clubs. It's League 2 to League 1.
I don't know.
It would be an interesting.
Daniel Stendel would be the obvious
issue.
choice.
I feel like Sol Campbell would face is the old issue that any club in that part of the country has found is getting players up there. However, when you're in League 1, I don't know, is it easier? I suppose that's the question I'm asking.
It's the name, it's the club of Sunderland.
Obviously, when you're in the Premier League, a club in London or Sunderland, you're probably going to choose a club in London just because of the surrounding area.
Yeah.
And that's no disrespect around there, but that's just a fact. They have to overpay, and that's how they get themselves in this situation. In League 1, when you're one of the biggest clubs, and you have Sol Campbell as your manager, that's probably more attractive than being one of the biggest clubs.
Would you want a former,
so as a player, would you be more inclined to go there? Or work harder for him? I don't know.
Would you want a former Newcastle player in charge?
He was barely
Newcastle player.
Well, he's a former Newcastle player.
Wow.
Then again, Sam Allardyce took over at Sunderland. He was a former Newcastle manager.
Crying out loud, he was more.
I guess.
Sol Campbell.
Let's be honest. If Sam Allardyce is currently the third favourite to be the next Man United manager, I don't think we need to say can Sol Campbell be the Sunderland.
I think he could do it. Like you say, maybe the fellow you were mentioning earlier. I'm not as qualified to say that, but I don't see why you couldn't take a punt on Sol Campbell.
The problem for me with Sunderland is when you have 30 or 40,000 people watching in League 1, they want to be entertained and they want to see the minimum of hard work and ethics, which that bit's happened, but
just
you want that with any team though. You want hard work.
Well, the thing is, if there was one man who could deal with who's used to dealing with the pressure of that number of fans on your back, or not getting abused, but
the expectation of winning every week,
it would be Sol Campbell. He did it. He went from obviously Tottenham to Arsenal, the whole thing around that, playing in a team where you are invincible. Obviously, I know the plaudits of that are amazing, but the pressure of each game builds up and up. If there was a man who could deal with that pressure and would not be fazed by it, maybe you're looking at someone like that. Whether that's the right appointment, I don't know, but maybe that's what they think. I don't know. But
the big problem for me with Sunderland is if they get it wrong, there seems to be this air, a bit like you say, like with Luton in the National League, this air of invincibility. Yeah. And we've seen before with Coventry, with Portsmouth, albeit supported by financial problems, they can go down to League 2 if it goes wrong. Yeah. And you have to be very careful of that, because that's the last thing probably any of us as football fans want to see for a massive club.
I don't see Sunderland going down there. I think they're too high up to.
But it only takes, let's say, like we've seen in other ones, an American owner taking over, hiring an unknown manager, and that's it.
it all goes.
I think it depends on. I think the appointment who they appoint, and same thing with Reading as well.
I was going to say, should we quickly whiz through? So we've done Ipswich, so Reading and.
Yeah, Reading and Hartlepool.
Whoever Reading employed, me and Charlie are likely to see their first home game, which would be nice.
So what was the issue with Jose Gomez? Really, really quickly?
I think it was just bad form. He was in bad form.
Well, they're outside.
But he wasn't there long.
They're outside the relegation zone. They're not investing a huge amount of money. They were right down there last year. In fact, I think one of us tipped them for relegation, and we all had them in the talk.
Yeah.
I don't quite understand what they expect.
No.
And again, it seems to be related to the football and losing at home, but.
Four out the bottom 5 at the moment have all sacked the managers, bar Stoke, amazingly.
If I'm honest, if you'd have said 2 weeks ago which one would go first, out of all
and amazingly, Graham Jones has only joined Luton in the summer. Is the 12th longest serving manager in the Championship.
Really?
Yes.
No way.
Yep.
Yeah, seriously.
He joined in May.
Bloody hell! Out of 24 teams.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
He's the 12th longest serving manager.
Unbelievable. That's ridiculous. And that, to be honest, if you wanted one sentence to maybe sum up the madness of the top end of football,
do you know what I'd love you to do? Out of the managers in that league, to go through the top 12, and I bet the majority of them are in the top half of the Championship.
Yeah, you're probably not
far off. Top 12.
Like top 12 longest serving managers.
Oh,
and
right,
the stability leads to success.
You do that really quickly. Dan talked
that.
about Hartlepool and the.
So Hartlepool I watched on TV last night as we were recording this on a Thursday, a few days ago as it comes out. They played away at Stockport County, a side I've openly admitted a soft spot for in the past.
Yeah.
Stockport were brilliant for 80 minutes. They let in a consolation against Hartlepool, or what turned out to be a consolation. The floodgates could have opened. It could have been 4 or 5-2 to Hartlepool in the end. Craig Hignett was sat in the stands. I don't know if he had a ban or something, or he just fancied sitting up there. Right. But the look on his face, you could tell he knew he was getting sacked. And I mean, I mentioned them to go down last year, and in the end they survived. But they're hovering again. They're 16, 17 from just dropping.
It's a real.
And again, another one. We say if you get things wrong, you have financial troubles. There isn't a limit to where you can fall to. That's the problem.
No. So Craig, have you got the managers there, or should we do that?
Yeah. So currently, the longest serving manager in the Championship, it was the Millwall manager,
Neil Harris,
but obviously he's gone.
He's gone.
It's now Lee Johnson of Bristol City,
top 6, top 4, I think,
who are currently 6th in the Championship. He's been there for 3 years and 246 days.
Just out of interest, then, who's 11th? Just above Graham Jones, who's only been there in the summer. Like, how long and what team is it?
Well, this guy didn't start in the summer. He started back end of last season. His name's Scott Parker of Fulham.
Right. Well, that in itself just shows.
He's been charged for 224 days
of
the time of recording.
And they're in the top half.
It's funny enough because the top of the Championship is
Bielsa's up there, so he'll be there.
West Brom, Bilic, new start season. Forest, new manager start of season. Preston, Alex Neil, he's the second or third longest manager now. Swansea, Cooper now, new summer. Bielsa a year. Bristol City with longest. Fulham, Sheffield Wednesday, QPR, new manager in the summer. And Charlton, obviously Lee Bowyer has been there for a good couple of seasons. And then Neil Warnock is the second longest manager.
By the way, next Premier League job that comes up, Lee Bowyer should be in the shout. Yeah. Brilliant job he's done.
Well, it could be Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, so I doubt he'll get the Man United job.
And now it's time for another tale of the unexpected. Just really quickly, I actually got one piece of feedback on last week's of someone who quite enjoyed the story about Dynamo Moscow and the fog.
And was that person in your head?
No. It was actually a Scottish friend of mine, Ewan. Ewan, who watched the video on YouTube and verified everything I said. And he also quite liked our segment about the CD, which we still haven't received yet.
He's the only person.
Because
Sorry,
he then put forward a few other ones about like Chris Waddle and all of that. But yeah, we can probably.
Diamond Lights.
We could do a special on that another time.
Christmas special.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually also, ironically, reading the book of Kaiser. Obviously, our man Carlos Henrique Raposo from a few weeks ago. There you go. The reason I say that is because this story today is a culmination of 3 or 4 different topics actually we've had over the previous weeks of this series. Not the Extraordinary Tales series, but actual stories that we've been telling. So, we're going to go back to FORFAR in February 1963, as in a place in Scotland, obviously, FORFAR. Now, the reason I was saying about us culminating this, is you remember last week we mentioned about the pools. You know,
we did, yeah.
The gambling sort of aspect of the pools, okay? This isn't a funny story, I think it's an incredibly clever one, but anyway. So the pools, I've done a bit of research on it just to give you a bit of context before I tell you the whole story about how it works.
Okay.
So the pools was you had a choice of any professional game in England and Scotland, and all you had to do was guess 12. You could go for 10, but the big prize was 12 score draws. So out of all those games, I don't know how many it would be.
Score draws,
and you had to try and guess 12 correct score draws. Okay.
That's pretty hard.
Well, that's exactly it. So the winner gets over like 3 million or something like that, because obviously they take in how much they get, and so. The way it worked was there was 2 prizes available. One was obviously the ultimate jackpot, which is getting 12 score draws correct, obviously the correct games. The chances of that across how many games in England and Scotland.
Well, it'd normally 49, wouldn't it?
Yeah, is it 49? I couldn't even give you the maths of all of it. I didn't have enough time to
see it in the paper.
But anyway, the secondary prize was whoever could get the closest to 24 points. So you know when it said the game fixture, 1, 2, 3. So you got 3 points for a score draw, which you'd expect because obviously it's the main purpose of the game. You got 2 points for a no score draw, and then 1 point for a home or away win. So the closer you get to 24 would be the winner for that week.
And considering the grand prize is 36, presumably, they're suggesting that not many people are going to get anywhere near it.
No, exactly.
It's funny how that's been replaced by the Sky Sports Super 6.
Well, no, it does still go on because I'll tell you.
It still goes, yeah.
So there's sort of a committee. I'll tell you in a minute about that. But yeah, so 24 points gets you a prize pot, but not a huge one, but enough obviously.
Really special prize.
So in terms of people who got it right, the last person to get the big jackpot, and he got 8 score draws correct, was in 2011. It was a man from Brecon, and he got £1.5 million for it. So if you get it right, if you can nail it, obviously you get a big pot for it. So anyway, we'll go back to FORFAR in 1963. So 63, thank you, right. now having an understanding of the pools. In 1962/63, that winter was called the Big Freeze. It was one of the worst winters this country's ever experienced. Okay, games getting called off left, right, and centre. Now, this posed a problem because the pools had been going for years by this point, but they hadn't come up with a solution of what to do if there's a mass cancelling of games. Because
not enough games to fill the.
Hadn't happened before, so they had a mass cancelling of games over that winter, and they were unsure how to. They were losing money because people can't gamble on it. If there's no game, you can't. If you put it down to score draw, it's void.
They
get your money
say
back.
home win.
Yeah, well, I know, but they didn't then, and that's the point. So we're building up to this point.
Okay.
Because obviously, who decides it's a home win, and this is where it comes to. So, what happened was game were cancelled because of the weather. So in January 1963, they decided to get a committee of players or ex-players to decide if there is a cancelling of a game, what the likely result would be. So, for example, obviously
they needed a committee for that.
They needed a committee for that. Because initially they could have just gone, what's the least likely one going to be, and no one would get enough points for it. So if you said, let's just say it was the Cup weekend and you had Man United versus Macclesfield, and you put Macclesfield away win, obviously no one's going to have put that, so they're going to shaft people. So what they did was they wanted to get some players together to do that. So one of them most notably was Tom Finney, the old...
Yeah, so Tom Finney, yeah.
Yeah, so they got experts to forecast the results. So over the winter of 1962-63, where it was so snowy, week after week, countless games were cancelled. And actually, a lot of reporters didn't have a lot to write about because it was just, a blanket ban on football pretty much because of the snow. So the FORFAR Dispatch, which was a local paper in FORFAR, decided that not obviously the big games in England or anything, but the more niche games in Scotland, so what would have been your old Division 2 and Division 3, they would write bogus match reports for games that were scheduled that weekend based on the pool's result. So if the experts predicted an away win for Stirling Albion, they would write
how it happened.
They would write how it happened. Now this was genius because obviously the local people, because football's a lot more community based then, would have known that was a bogus report because it was a joke. Because obviously they were local and they knew the game wasn't played. Some of the stories, not all, most of them didn't, but some of the stories that they'd made up got picked up by sort of bigger newspapers in London and were ran as genuine stories because no one could verify a Division 2 game in Scotland.
And those papers in London just want quick football.
And they just want content, basically. Even now, it's exactly the same now. But you talk about the 60s where it's a lot harder to verify stuff.
It's the start of fake journalism.
Basically the start of fake journalism.
It's the start of the sun.
So, and the reason obviously that, the pools wanted the people to keep gambling, so it worked for everyone, They kept getting these results depending on which way it went. People could still gamble even though there was no football. And reporters could still report on something. So, I won't read you all in order of who played what, but just hilariously, this is some of the genuine stories that were made up by FORFAR Dispatch that ended up in national newspapers. Okay.
Please let me East 5-4, 4-5-5.
Oh, he's ruined the ending of it.
Aha! Yes.
So that was the last one I was going to call. The last one was famously. So everyone thinks it was Eric Morecambe who came up with that.
Yeah.
But actually, one of the bogus reports that was sent through was East 5-4, FORFAR 5, which obviously is a mouthful, and eventually happened in real life on penalties.
I'm amazed I actually said that first time.
Yeah, so, but I just thought, that was a genius. But other things that hilariously happened that obviously didn't happen, but they then got reported in papers. So a goalkeeper was injured when he got caught in the side netting and had to be cut out, so like a fish.
Oh, God.
National papers ran with these, okay, in the 60s. A player's boot cleared both the bar and the stand, and his boot went over the top of the stand when he took a shot. That got run in a normal newspaper. A man had to come off after the elastic in his shorts pinged on his groin, if you know what I mean, and had to be taken off of the pitch.
Did Rooney make all these up?
No. Another one was just a player got knocked out by a post twice. Not once, but twice.
Was it both posts?
No, I assume so, I don't know. Another one was where a defender was sent off because he pelted his own goalkeeper with snowballs. Obviously the game's not being played. Played in poor conditions. One half of a game in Scotland was 63 minutes long because the referee's pee in his whistle had to be defrosted because it was so...
That's brilliant.
There's countless other ones they made up that then, obviously... But unfortunately, so the most famous one was East 5-4, FORFAR 5, which got put through but obviously didn't happen. The reason it went under was they did a story that was just a bit too elaborate, and then people tweaked what was going on, and it was that there was a short corner taken by a player for Stirling Albion in which he tied his boot to the lace in the football. So they've gone for a short corner, he's put the ball down, obviously he's tied his boot to the, played a short corner of his, and then just ran into the goal, and obviously the ball is tied to his boot. Impossible, and there's no way you've got away with it. That was the one that basically blew the cover on the whole thing. And then people knew, this is all a bit of a laugh and etc.
Is that why they took lace out of football?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But no, and then you sort of ruined my punchline, but obviously they did the East 5 one.
East 5-4, FORFAR 5.
Just for a little fact for you, when they did play each other that season, East 5 won 2-0, not... So yeah, that was basically it. So the pools, obviously, the link between the pools, East 5
A very nice talent link to last week, and can we finally say, don't buy the sun.
So, any other business? Dan, there's a sort of story that you maybe want to rant about, or I don't know whether to write.
Well, I don't know so much.
Oh, no, it was Craig who didn't agree with it. Sorry, I stand corrected. I'm sorry.
We want to talk about a game in the Northern Irish Premier League. Yeah. Of course, your favourite of all the leagues. Charlie's expert field.
No, I'm going to a game. I'm going to Ballymena Crusaders on Saturday.
Fantastic, and I hope you'll have a match report on the channel.
I'll have a match report on the channel.
On League Day
this and I'll be at your game.
The 10-year anniversary on League Day.
Very nice, and we'll be talking about that in next week's episode.
Yes, I'll do a review of Ballymena Crusaders. Anyway, back to Northern Ireland.
Glentoran, late on in their game at the weekend, had a player sent off. Second yellow card. And why was it, Craig?
It was because the Northern Irish League are very strict on the new substitution rules. If you don't know what the new substitution rules, because everyone else doesn't seem to remember what it is, you're supposed to
to our IFAB video.
Go to IFAB video in the
IFAB,
IFAB, and you'll see. You listen to why that's a new rule. Basically, you have to lead the nearest point, nearest point.
You should leave the pitch.
Yeah, you should leave the nearest point. Yeah. So if you're standing in the 18-yard box to the left, you move off to either goal or to the sideline.
Now,
not straight down to the centre circle to the substitute. Now, the Glentoran player decided to walk from the centre down to where the other substitute is.
Because
they were delaying a bit of time because they were probably winning the game.
And one of the problems there is that the referee on this occasion decided that he would give a second yellow card for it, which meant that the substitute then couldn't come on for him, and they were down.
Which is my favourite part of the whole story, was the substitute's face as you see he's about to come on, and he just turns in disgust, like, oh
no!
Because obviously he's...
But my biggest problem with it...
Yeah, it's an interesting debate.
And it is something that really frustrates me, is how many times in the same weekend, and more importantly, as I said, what happens next weekend? So let's say the game you go to on Saturday, and the same thing happens. I would say there's at least an 80% chance that player won't get a yellow card.
No, and that's the thing. That is that we talked about it last week for a different perspective, but
the thing that annoys football fans is consistency. Not what rule is and isn't there. It's the fact that it's not done consistently. People aren't annoyed that VAR's there. People's annoyed that the amount of time decisions are taken is inconsistent. Yeah. And the decisions they're coming to are inconsistent.
Yeah, because it is interesting. I think you showed it.
I remember saying in the IFAB video, I said, what will happen when you got to go past a set of like you're in the away team, you go past a set of home fans, and you're going to get dogs abuse anyway, and that exactly happened.
That links perfectly to the second part of the story, doesn't it?
Yeah,
which is Millwall Leeds.
Millwall Leeds, obviously I say rivals, but fans wider rivals, and it's always a hostile atmosphere at the new Den. Patrick Bamford gets substituted and
Goes off at the nearest point.
Nearest point. That's the rules. Well
Well
done him.
done.
Rules are rules.
No booking for him.
No booking for him. Unfortunately, he's on the other side of the pitch, where obviously he has to go past the Millwall fans, and they decide to spit at him, which is not nice.
Which is something we'd sort of predicted. Which
I
is awful,
called
the fact
it.
that we
I
probably
called it.
got that right. You know, it's tough, isn't it? Because on the flip side of it, I'm not saying one's less than the other, but do you want to watch a game where someone takes up to a minute, nearly a minute and a half in some cases, to get off of the
But
pitch?
did you see what the suggested solution was?
No.
Don't do it at the new den.
See,
Someone
That's
said it got,
that's
no.
ridiculous.
Someone said that the referee's got to use more common sense when it comes to the
Yeah,
substitutions.
which essentially is don't do it at the new den. Just
Yeah.
because it's happened at the new den. But then you're doing that at 23
See,
championship
the
clubs
thing
and
is,
not the other.
It's difficult because they're the away team. What do you do if you're obviously a home
Home
team
player
player,
has to go
and you have to go
away
past
end.
the away end? Do you know what I mean? Like,
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't. You can't write a rule for it. You've either
No.
got to go back to what it was, or you stick with it. But whether you have then security near where the players, it's just problematic. I
It
think
wasn't thought through.
no, and it goes back to then, like you say, someone gets sent off in a situation that probably.
But it's
didn't
funny
need
that
to happen.
you get. The thing is, what? Here's another thing. You get like substitutions, yeah. But when it goes to a player sent off, because oh no, we'll let him go up the nearest point where he is right now, and then make him go around the stadium and then come off pitch.
Yeah.
No, because player gets sent off, he's going to take his time getting to the
Yeah.
tunnel. So that is pretty much worse than the substitution.
I'll go back to that thing that we say of a lot of rules or changes with football.
They
And
haven't thought it through.
well, yeah, but also we're talking about on one of the elite level of the game. In grassroots football, it's only my limited experience since the rules come in, because you've been at more games than me, Craig. I haven't seen a referee once tell a player, and this is only on grassroots football on a Saturday afternoon, to leave at the nearest point of entry.
I've had to shout and say,
Yeah,
go off
you
the
have.
point.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is I haven't seen a referee. So in any substitution we've made, I've not seen a referee at any point. You know, we've had substitutions where they've run halfway across the pitch to come off.
Do you know what's frustrated me? I've been to all bar probably 2 or 3 of Luton's games this season in the Championship. Half the time I've seen it, and half the time it's not been enforced.
Yeah.
I think I've
And
seen
that's the most frustrating thing.
I've seen it once at Luton. There was that Cardiff. I think Moncur went round.
But then I went to QPR 4 weeks later, wasn't enforced.
No, that's
And
the
it
thing.
does my head in that you
Yeah.
can't provide consistency.
And when you get people sent off because of it, I'm not saying you shouldn't be sent off for it, but if you're getting some people sent off for it,
But
and
if
other
you-
people just
if
strolling
you get
off,
sent off for it, the next time you see something not happen, you're going to say, "Well, hang on a
Can't
minute.
wreck. He's already on the year though. He's
Yeah.
taking forever.
No,
Send him off.
no, I completely
It's this rule is going to end in a legal case. That's the thing that scares me.
Yeah.
And football shouldn't be decided in a courtroom.
No, never.
Shall we finish on 2 very more light-hearted stories?
That would be nice.
So, just really quickly, there was a story of a Scottish official called Vicky Allen who has broken a Guinness World Record because she has officiated a game at the highest altitude ever.
Lovely.
They played a very short, because of the oxygen, a very short football match at the top of, near the top of Mount Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
Obviously, one of the highest
Did the
mountains.
tea
in the
and
world.
no whistle need to get defrosted as well?
I don't think that did, no, but it is quite funny because there's obviously all the players in their kit, but they've all got like leggings and stuff on, and every spectator has pretty much got Arctic gear on because obviously it's so cold and the air up there. But I just thought that's quite cool, something like that. World record.
But there was a
Congrats, well done.
genuinely there was a game at very high altitude. Was it Bolivia v Brazil or
Peru's normally.
Brazil were away
high.
somewhere, and it was about 14,000
I
feet
think Peru's
altitude.
got the highest
And
altitude
there were
stadiums in the
players
world.
just fainting everywhere. Weren't
Yeah. So the game was played at 5,685 metres above sea level.
And what was the score?
Well, it was more of a kick around.
Well, that's not.
But it was okay. It was a
You
game.
you should really have converted
like
that
cup
feet. It
season.
would have been far more dramatic.
It's
like cup season,
I don't know,
really.
do that for feet. But yeah, so that's basically that. And last story, I don't know if you saw that about Peter Cech.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
no,
did.
yes, no,
So
hockey.
he's now playing for the Guildford Phoenix, which is the second tier of ice hockey. Obviously not available all
in
the
the
time
UK.
because of his football commitments, etc.
With Chelsea.
But yeah, apparently massive ice hockey fan. Didn't know this.
Massive drummer, massive ice hockey
There you
fan.
go. So he's 37, but he's signed on for them, and he's going to train wherever he can. Which then led on to a bit further on. Obviously, I didn't find this. Another actual journalist did this bit, but I'm going to repeat it. If other footballers who then excelled in other sports after finishing football. So
Is this our quiz, is it?
it's a very short quiz. It's
Oh,
more
I
just
know
a talking
one.
point. So okay, first one, Paolo Maldini. Where did he go after football?
Did he do tennis?
He did indeed do tennis, and he actually took part in an ATP Tour
Right,
event. He lost 6-1, 6-1 in 42 minutes against
Don't matter.
Poland's Thomas Bedenek, and yeah. So anyway, the next one. So Tim Weiss, Stuart Tomlinson, and Grant Holt.
Wrestling.
All went to obviously wrestling. So Port Vale goalkeeper Stuart Tomlinson, etc. Now
Wise is in the WWE, I think.
I think you're right. Yes, yeah, he is. Yeah. Okay. Ivan Perisic,
What, the Croatian player?
the Croatian player.
Don't know.
He became a professional beach volleyball player.
Oh.
Which obviously people get the wrong idea about Croatia. It's actually a very hot, it's not too far from like Italy and that sort of place. So it's that kind of climate. So actually beach volleyball. Mediterranean. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Jerzy Dudek, Santiago Canizares, and Fabian Barthez.
Oh, it's got to be sport, isn't it? I was going to say that's a
DJ.
wonderful boy band. That.
To be fair, Canizares is now Gaius Minietta is now a DJ.
Yes. He is a DJ.
Very nice.
But those three are now taking part in professional motor racing. So Dudek and Barthez have competed in the 24-hour endurance race circuit.
Oh, the Le Mans.
And Canizares rides road bikes and he races in Suzuki. Last couple, Leon McKenzie and Curtis Woodhouse. Boxing, yeah, obviously he went. And I think, is Curtis Woodhouse managing a non-league team?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it is.
So Dean Windass, he lost his first game.
Gabriel Batistuta.
The Batty goal. Where we'll
He
probably
had
see
to
him famously
retire.
on PES 2 very soon after this recording.
He had to retire after he suffered an ankle injury, obviously, which ended his football career. And he had to retire from this sport as well because of an ankle injury, which was polo. Polo. So yeah, professional polo player, which is huge in Argentina. Apparently, when
How do you do polo?
No, when you're on a horse.
Yeah.
You can fall off the horse. I don't know. It just says he injured himself. I don't
know.
know. But yeah, obviously, I didn't realise apparently a lot.
Water polo is massive over there.
Yeah, but even the polo because of the British influence back in the day. Right, last couple. Vicente Lizarazu. And this is brilliant because out of all of them, he's exceeded the most.
Rowing.
No, jiu-jitsu. And not only was he a jiu-jitsu, he became European champion at jiu-jitsu.
Oh,
fair
so
play.
yeah, so that was it basically. So
Van der Vaart.
So technically, I
Van der
suppose-
Vaart's in the darts.
is he really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Vicente Lizarazu, I assume then, is a European champion in 2 different sports.
Very good.
He is the European
There you go.
champion
But
too.
yes.
Sports.
That was
Very good.
that was a little thing for you there. So
That's a lot easier quiz than your League of Their Own CD last week. Well done, you.
Okay, and we finish with a proper quiz this time, a sports quiz. And what is the quiz called, Charlie and Craig?
Can you name them?
Charlie's given up in a probably a bit of a defiance at being 7-0
No,
down.
because
and also
he
because
didn't
made me
think
look-
I'll get that right.
he made me look a prick on last week's episode by hanging me out to dry, so I didn't want to commit to it. Right.
So obviously we're in the international break. So I
they're boring.
I wanted to theme it based on nationality at least.
Makes a lot
I
of
guess.
sense.
And obviously one of your favourite quizzes of the year so far was the Portuguese one, which was related to nature.
Tense, yeah.
So I thought, what better thing to do when you said that was hard than go even more niche?
Oh god.
Portuguese. Oh
He's
yeah.
gonna go for like, I don't know, Mongolian
So,
Premier League
They'll
players.
go for like
Not
Senegalese.
quite, but you're not far off.
gosh.
No, Senegalese, that list was very
That'd
long.
be quite large, yeah.
So
Really?
we're going for quite a finite list.
How many?
And it was inspired by something Craig mentioned in a podcast last week. You mentioned a name, and that's the reason we're in this quiz today.
Joe Tesson.
So no, it's not. I would like you to name...
Lundic van?
Joe Tesson. Why did you choose Joe Tesson?
I don't know. I didn't even say him last week either.
Can we please focus? I would like you to name, take it in turns, can you name them, one of the 17 Icelandic players to feature in the Premier League. Now there's a variety of reasons I've picked this. One was related to last week. One was because actually of all of the sort of niche nations around this sort of level, they're the only one of the 17 names hasn't featured in the 21st century, which I think will make it a bit easier.
So Oliver.
And Charlie asked for championship names, and over half of these names have also played in the championship. So I'm trying to help him, but see how good his knowledge is.
Right.
So I've got a couple of stats. 17 names.
No, you don't need
2 are active Premier League players.
Right.
Only one, as I mentioned, didn't play in the 21st century in the Premier League. And of course, there are 17 in
You
total.
obviously need first names because I imagine there's a few with similar.
I will need full names, I'm afraid, for this one.
This is a very, very short
And
quiz.
afterwards, when I well, that was the aim. And afterwards, when I tried to name some of them, I apologise in advance to all of the people of Iceland who may eventually listen to
300,000
this.
people of
Right,
Iceland.
I've got one.
And we have talked about Iceland a lot on the quiz for UEFA coaching and things like that. So it is a nice link.
I've
So
got-
Charlie goes first.
I've got one, and I think it's a very obvious one, which is Ida Johnson.
Charlie Betts, Eidur Johnson is of course correct. Played for Chelsea, Spurs, Stoke and Fulham.
Where was he on the list out of interest? Or have you got them in order or just 17 names?
Well, I've got them in order, but only alphabetical order, so that's not going to help you.
that's all right. Right. Okay. Cool.
Gylfi Sigurdsson.
Of course, one of the 2 active players currently at Everton after spell at Swansea and Spurs in the Premier League. Of course, also playing the Championship too.
Right.
Swansea twice.
Icelandic.
I've got one more.
I can think of a name, but I don't know if I don't know his first name.
I don't think he was Icelandic as well.
Would you be prepared, as Charlie is probably going to fail here, to let him just
I've got a few in my head.
Would you let him have the second name?
Well, you're lucky if I get the first name right.
I don't know if I know the second
Well,
name.
I'll let you off. As this is a very hard quiz, we can resort to second names. And
But they've all probably got the same
No,
surname.
because this is probably quite a common name. I'm going to go for, I think this is it. Is it Joey Gudjonsson?
may I ask who you think he may have played for?
Reading?
I'm afraid.
He played for Burnley.
Oh, was it Burnley?
He played for Villa.
Right, sorry.
Yeah, that's the guy. Leicester as well. Villa and Leicester.
Yes.
Is that correct?
So officially down as Joanne Gudjonsson, but Joey Gudjonsson is fine. I will take that.
That's
I was
I'm
trying
out
to
now.
check that you hadn't just gone for the most common Icelandic name.
No.
Gudjonsson.
So
I thought he played for Reading.
Gudjonsson.
once you name the club, I'm happy. Played for Aston Villa, Wolves, and Burnley in the Premier League. So
But not Reading.
no, not Reading. Which is why I let you name a second club before I gave you it.
Right.
This quiz has descended into chaos again.
It's always chaos.
Craig Savage. We still got one active Premier League player, of course, which is strange. And the inspiration for the quiz are both still waiting.
Who's he mentioned in the quiz then?
Aaron Gunnarsson.
Correct, Craig Savage. Of course, last season.
Cardiff City.
2 different years for Cardiff. One a few years back under Malcolm McCoy. And last season, the long throw specialist. Now back in the Championship.
Is he? So he's the other active?
No, he's not in the
He's
Championship.
Oh, active
He's not.
Premiership player. Right.
He's not
okay.
now.
Well, no, but he was at the start of the season.
Oh,
Hey,
God.
he was out of contract this summer.
Yeah.
So he's not at that club.
Oh, I don't think he's Icelandic.
Oh no, he said that one, and I said that one. He said the obvious one, and obviously I said the obvious one.
I mean, I don't know what you're doing at this point other than commentating on what's happened so far.
I ran out of players.
Charlie Betts.
I had one.
We've still got an active Premier League player and the inspiration. I mean, some of you are going to kick yourselves at this point.
I don't think he's Icelandic, but I can only think he's the only name who sounds similar to one we've mentioned recently. Did we mention him recently?
I can't remember.
We've mentioned a couple of these very recently and multiple times.
I can't think of any other Icelandic players.
I'm going out. I know it's wrong. Pontus Jansson.
I'm afraid not, mate.
Oh, fucking hell.
One he hasn't played in the Premier League, and one he's not Icelandic either. Craig Savage, over to you, a chance to win it. Don't forget, we still have the inspiration for the quiz, an active Premier League player, and some other legends of
don't know who
this
that is.
Premier League
podcast.
I've got Goodmanson in my head, but I don't know who he is.
Oh no.
I'm going to need
Is
you
he-
to be specific and give me either a first name or clubs, if that's the
Is he
last name you
Finnish?
want to go for.
Did Goodmanson play for Burnley as well?
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, because I don't know.
Well, Craig, you have spotted the other active Premier League player.
Is he playing?
Joanne Goodmanson, who has started over half of Burnley's Premier League.
How is he the inspiration for this
It's Marcus
podcast?
He's not. No, he's not the inspiration for this podcast.
Is Marcus
he's the active
Hyken
Premier
an
League player.
Icelandic? He's not, is he?
No, he's Finnish.
No.
I
So
thought he was Finnish.
I'm not going to name all the names of fear for embarrassing myself, but I am going to name some that you'll probably kick yourself
Yeah.
for.
Yeah.
So,
I couldn't tell.
So
you.
I'm currently 8-0
does
up.
anyone? Yes, Craig, you're 8-0 up. Well done. This quiz is
Yeah,
now.
I don't care
It's
about
no
that.
longer a
It's
competition,
defunct
is it?
anyway.
I
It's
don't
more-
care. I
It's
don't
more
care.
just fun.
An exhibition.
Who's the inspiration for the quiz? We talked at length about him last week.
Don't know.
Last week.
Yes. Can I give you the giveaway clue now?
Yeah,
just so you
go
can kick yourself. You love him despite his awful relegation record.
Herman
Ryderson! Is he Icelandic?
Oh no!
Herman Hreidarsson.
I thought he was Swedish.
Is he Icelandic?
Yes.
I thought he was Swedish.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed he was
I just watched him on Premier League
Who
years.
is, taking aside Matt Letitia, the best penalty taker in Premier League history?
Danny Murphy.
No.
James
Egil
Milner.
Ostenstad.
James Milner.
No. Can I put you out of your misery? Heider Helgason.
Oh man. Oh.
See, you're kicking
Should have
yourself
got
now.
Herman Ryderson. I was thinking of names with Sun on the end, if I'm being brutally honest.
And then
Son.
you may have forgotten, but in the mid to late 2000s, we were talking quite a lot about Reading's team recently. You know, the
Yeah.
Doyle, Long, Alita and
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
he's
what I was
centre
thinking.
back.
the two centre-halves
Yeah.
were Bjarne Gunnarsson and Eva Ingemarsen.
Ah, so I think I'm
Wow.
thinking Gunnarsson. When I said Good Johnson,
You were close. You were close. You were close for most of the goal.
There are plenty of other players on there. A couple of others. Egert Jonsson, who was at one point a real hot prospect at Hearts, went to Wolves and ruined his career.
Don't remember him.
Greta Steinson was the one that stood out for me as a player.
Oh,
I forgot the old
Bolton!
Bolton centre-half.
Bolton!
But they were a
I
couple
thought
of
you
stand-out
said
names
Greta
for me.
Thunberg for a second. I thought, don't ruin my childhood.
But that was a quiz that
That
I
was
knew
a
was
good
going to
one.
cause frustration.
That was very frustrating.
Because there are more obvious names.
I
country
didn't
that
expect to win that. I'm annoyed at Herman Haridason.
There are more obvious names than you think, and that's going to be the thing
Yeah.
with some of my quizzes moving forward.
Oh, Herman.
But that quiz that I found today, based on your Herman Haridason comments last week, has inspired some of the next few, not for nationality reasons, but just because of
I like the
style.
nationality ones, they're good. Albeit I'm crap at them, they're good, I like them.
So you can expect something just as niche next week. We're no longer going to worry about the competition.
The game's I won. I won already.
It's now just a bit of fun, so we can reminisce on some old names rather than any sort of competition.
Yeah, it's all about the old Premier League players.
Okay, fair enough.
And that is it for today's podcast Ramble. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe if you're on YouTube, and thank you for listening on our major platforms. And we'll see you next time.